Why January 1st doesn't feel like a beginning. Have you ever woken up on January 1st and asked yourself, why does nothing inside me feel new? The calendar insists that a new cycle has begun. People speak of fresh starts, clean pages, new energy. But when you become quiet for a moment, you notice that the same emotional tone is still present, the same inner weight, the same unresolved sensations moving through your body. Many humans interpret this as failure, as laziness, as a lack of will or discipline. We, the Pleiadians, say something very different. What you feel on January 1st is not resistance to change. It is alignment with living time. A true beginning cannot be commanded by a date. It emerges when the inner field reorganizes itself. Your nervous system does not recognize calendars. Your emotional body does not respond to collective countdowns. Your consciousness does not reset because society decided that it should. Human time was constructed to regulate systems, work cycles, production, agreements, control of movement. But the human being was never designed to renew itself mechanically. So when you wake up on January 1st and notice that you are still carrying the same emotional landscape, the same questions, the same unfinished processes, your system is not late. It is honest. Most humans were trained to perform renewal, to announce change before change actually happens, to declare new identities while old patterns are still active underneath. But the field never responds to declarations. It only responds to real internal shifts. A true new year begins quietly. It begins when a pattern loses its grip on you, when a reaction no longer takes control of your body, when you stop negotiating with what drains your energy, when your presence changes before your words do. This is why January 1st feels empty to so many of you. Not because nothing is coming, but because the previous cycle has not finished speaking yet. The body is still integrating. The emotional field is still releasing. The system is still closing what was open months before. And forcing beginnings while endings are incomplete creates internal fragmentation. January 1st is a symbol, useful for organization, meaningful for society. But the true new year is a frequency, not a date. It arrives when your inner field stabilizes, when your energy returns to coherence, when movement no longer comes from pressure, but from clarity. And this is what we will help you recognize in this transmission. Not when you should start, but how to feel when the real beginning has already arrived. Because if January 1st felt quiet, heavy, or neutral to you, that was not emptiness. That was preparation. The calendar you follow was never created to respect your inner rhythm. It was created to synchronize systems, regulate labor, and control collective timing. It was designed for efficiency, not for coherence, for coordination, not for integration, for predictability, not for emotional truth. Your body was never designed to obey artificial resets. Your nervous system does not recognize months, dates, or numbers. It recognizes pressure and release, tension and resolution, expansion and contraction, safety and threat. This is why January has felt slow. This is why it has felt dense. This is why it has felt energetically confusing. Your system is not malfunctioning. It is responding accurately to where the cycle actually is. December compresses experience, concentrates memory. It amplifies social interaction, emotional recall, unfinished narratives, expectations, and evaluations. Nothing in a living system can close all of that instantly. When accumulation reaches a peak, the next biological movement is never acceleration. It is digestion. January is not meant to be a launch. It is meant to be a stabilization phase. In living systems, stabilization always precedes expansion. If stabilization is skipped, expansion collapses. This is why so many humans feel resistance when they try to force beginnings in January. The body responds with fatigue. The mind responds with confusion. The emotional field responds with heaviness, not as punishment, as protection. Protection against fragmentation. When humans ignore this signal, they interpret resistance as weakness. They push harder. They demand more from themselves. They override rest. They attempt to manufacture motivation. This creates internal conflict. And internal conflict is one of the greatest sources of energy leakage in the human field. Energy is not lost because you are inactive. It is lost because you are divided. To close this division, a single act of alignment is required. Write the following sentence in the comments, exactly as it is written. My body knows the real timing. This act is not symbolic. It is functional. Language directs attention. Attention reorganizes the nervous system. When language confirms what the body already knows, internal resistance dissolves. The nervous system exits self-judgment. The emotional field stops negotiating with external pressure. Energy that was trapped in internal argument returns to coherence. This has direct consequences. It reduces anxiety linked to productivity. It interrupts the urge to force premature decisions. It preserves energy for the moment when real movement becomes available. Many humans do not fail because they lack discipline. They fail because they start at the wrong time. Timing is not strategy. Timing is biology. The calendar may declare a new year. Society may demand momentum. But your body does not follow declarations. It follows alignment. And when alignment is restored, the cycle closes properly. Only after proper closure does a real beginning emerge. And that beginning cannot be forced. In living systems, no cycle opens before the previous one is truly closed. This is a law of coherence. A tree does not bloom immediately after losing its leaves. The soil does not receive seeds while it is still frozen. The body does not move forward while it is still processing what has passed. And yet, humans are trained to ignore this law. You are taught that endings must be brief, that rest is indulgence, that pauses are inefficiency. But pauses are not empty. They are structural. The phase you are in now is not a beginning phase. It is a completion phase. Completion does not mean finishing tasks. It means finishing internal reactions. It means the nervous system no longer responding to the same emotional triggers. It means memories losing their charge. It means experiences settling into understanding instead of repetition. This is why January often feels inward, reflective, quiet in a way that can feel uncomfortable. Silence exposes what noise was covering. When the external pace slows, unresolved material rises to the surface. This is not regression. It is integration. Many humans attempt to bypass this phase. They distract themselves with plans. They set goals to avoid feeling what still needs to be digested. They move forward to avoid closing what is unfinished. But unfinished cycles always follow. They reappear as repeated patterns, as similar relationships, as the same emotional conflicts wearing new names. A true new year does not repeat old structures. It dissolves them. That dissolution cannot happen while attention is fixed on the future. It happens when awareness remains present with what is still active inside. This is why the body slows you down, not to delay your life, but to prevent you from carrying unresolved weight into the next cycle. Carrying unfinished emotional material forward distorts whatever comes next. It turns new beginnings into continuations. And many humans mistake continuity for destiny. But destiny does not repeat. Only unresolved patterns do. The phase you are in now is the space where repetition can finally end. If you honor it, the next movement will not require force. It will emerge naturally. Clarity does not arrive through effort. It arrives through resolution. And resolution only happens when the system is allowed to complete what it has already begun. This is why we say with certainty, the true new year does not begin when something starts. It begins when something no longer needs to continue, and that recognition changes the entire direction of a cycle. There is a clear reason guilt becomes stronger when you slow down. That guilt did not arise from your nature. It was learned. Humans were conditioned to associate movement with worth, speed with value, and rest with failure. This conditioning was never about health. It was about control. Guilt appears precisely when your biological rhythm conflicts with imposed timing. It is not a signal of conscience. It is a signal of systemic pressure. January exposes this conflict with clarity. Your body asks for integration. Your emotional field asks for recalibration. Your nervous system asks for safety before expansion. And guilt responds immediately. It tells you that you should already be productive, that you should already feel motivated, that if you are not moving forward, you are falling behind. This creates internal division. One part of you follows natural timing. Another part tries to obey external demand. Division drains energy. This drain affects clarity, emotional stability, and decision-making. A divided system cannot move cleanly. It either forces action or collapses into resistance. Many humans confuse guilt with responsibility. But responsibility brings clarity. Guilt brings pressure. Pressure does not produce alignment, produces compliance, and compliance fragments the field. To dissolve guilt, authority must be restored internally, not through explanation, not through justification, but through a clear act of recognition. So now, one necessary action is required. Write the following sentence in the comments, exactly as it is written. I release guilt for honoring my natural rhythm. This act interrupts an internal command pattern. When you write this sentence, your nervous system exits self-surveillance. Your emotional field releases the need to prove worth through urgency. Your body stops preparing for judgment. Guilt cannot remain active when authority is reclaimed consciously. This sentence breaks the false link between speed and value. It restores the correct link between rhythm and coherence. Without guilt, integration proceeds naturally. Energy consolidates instead of dispersing. Clarity becomes available without pressure. This does not slow your life. Prevents premature movement. Premature movement carries unresolved patterns forward. Aligned movement closes cycles cleanly. The calendar may continue to reward acceleration. External systems may continue to demand speed. But when guilt is removed, your system no longer fractures itself to comply. And a system that is no longer divided moves forward with precision. This is not about stopping. It is about waiting for the correct moment. When guilt dissolves, timing becomes visible. And when timing becomes visible, the true new year approaches, quietly, accurately, and without resistance. A true new year is not marked by action. It is marked by a shift in frequency. Nothing visible needs to change at first. No announcement is required. No external movement needs to happen. What changes is the internal orientation. This is where many humans become confused. You were trained to recognize beginnings through form, New projects, new habits, new commitments, new identities. But in living systems, form is always secondary. Frequency shifts first. Form reorganizes later. When frequency changes, behavior adjusts on its own. When frequency does not change, behavior collapses back into repetition. The true new year begins when something inside you no longer pulls the same way. A reaction weakens. An emotional loop dissolves. A familiar pattern fails to activate. This moment is subtle but decisive. It rarely arrives with excitement. It arrives with neutrality. And neutrality is often misinterpreted as emptiness. But emptiness is not absence. It is the absence of compulsion. When old impulses lose charge, the nervous system enters a phase of quiet recalibration. This phase can feel unfamiliar. There is less urgency, less inner pressure, less need to define what comes next immediately. Many humans interpret this as stagnation, but it is not stagnation. It is reorientation. During reorientation, clarity is not yet verbal. It is somatic. You feel more grounded, less reactive, less inclined to explain yourself, less driven to justify your pace. This is the internal signal that a cycle has truly completed. A false beginning feels charged, restless, urgent. It demands immediate proof. A real beginning feels stable, quiet, unforced. This is why excitement is often mistaken for alignment. Excitement frequently comes from escape, from running away from what is unresolved. Alignment comes from resolution. When a cycle resolves internally, energy stops leaking into repetition. That conserved energy does not rush outward, consolidates. And consolidation is what allows sustained movement later. This is why forcing visible change too early destabilizes the field. You move without foundation. You act without coherence. You start carrying unfinished material into what should be new. But when frequency shifts first, action becomes precise. Effort decreases. Resistance dissolves. Direction becomes obvious without pressure. The true new year does not demand reinvention. It does not ask you to become someone else. It reveals who you are no longer willing to be. That recognition closes one cycle and quietly opens another. This is how living systems evolve, not through abrupt declarations, but through internal reorganization. When frequency leads, form follows naturally. And when form follows frequency, change stabilizes instead of collapsing. The calendar cannot measure this moment. No external system can announce it, but your body recognizes it immediately, because when the true new year arrives, you do not feel the need to announce it. You feel ready to move, without forcing yourself forward. Many humans sense when a true beginning is approaching, but they sabotage it without realizing. Not through action, but through premature decision. The moment internal pressure eases, the mind rushes to define, control, and structure what comes next. Plans are made too early. Promises are given before clarity stabilizes. Commitments are assumed before direction is fully formed. This happens because uncertainty feels unsafe to the conditioned mind. But uncertainty is not danger. It is the natural space before coherence locks in. A system that has just completed a cycle requires a brief phase of openness. This openness allows the field to reorganize naturally. When humans rush to define the future too early, they collapse the space. And when the space collapses, the new cycle forms using old reference points. This is how repetition sneaks into what was meant to be new. The body signals this clearly. Tension appears when decisions are premature. Fatigue rises when commitments are misaligned. Resistance grows when movement is forced. These are not obstacles. They are boundary signals. Ignoring them does not create strength. It creates misalignment. To protect the integrity of the next cycle, a clear boundary must be installed consciously, and this requires a deliberate act. Write the following sentence in the comments, exactly as it is written. I allow clarity to arrive before commitment. This act stabilizes the open phase of the cycle. When you write this sentence, your nervous system receives permission to remain undecided without threat. Your emotional field releases the urge to secure the future prematurely. Your mind stops substituting control for clarity. This prevents premature closure, preserves openness. It allows the new cycle to form from truth instead of habit. Many humans lock themselves into paths before their energy has actually chosen them. This sentence interrupts that pattern. Tells the field that timing matters more than certainty, that coherence matters more than speed. When this boundary is installed, clarity arrives without force. Direction emerges quietly. Decisions feel obvious instead of heavy. This is how aligned commitment forms. Not from pressure, not from fear of uncertainty, but from stabilized awareness. The calendar encourages immediate definition. Living systems do not. They require space. Before structure, when you protect that space, the next movement carries integrity. And integrity is what makes a beginning real. Once the cycle has closed internally, and the open phase has been protected without force, a quiet transition begins. Not a dramatic shift, not a visible rupture, a simplification. The field starts to reduce noise. What once demanded attention begins to lose urgency. What once felt confusing begins to feel neutral. What once required explanation no longer asks for words. This is how direction reveals itself in aligned systems. Not by adding something new, but by removing what no longer belongs. You begin to notice this in small ways. Certain conversations feel complete without needing closure. Certain environments no longer stimulate curiosity. Certain obligations lose their emotional charge. There is no rejection involved, only completion. Completion does not announce itself. It stabilizes. As this stabilization deepens, your nervous system becomes quieter. Attention stops jumping between possibilities. Energy stops scattering across unfinished internal negotiations. This is not certainty. It is orientation. Many humans believe clarity arrives as a thought, but clarity arrives first as a felt alignment. You feel less pulled, less pressured, less compelled to justify your pace. This is the moment when confusion dissolves. Confusion is not lack of intelligence. It is the presence of too many unresolved signals competing for authority. As those signals integrate, clarity emerges naturally. This is why aligned direction feels lighter. Not because it is easy, but because it is no longer resisted internally. Movement begins to feel proportional, not rushed, not delayed. You stop preparing yourself to act. You simply act when movement appears. This is why motivation becomes irrelevant. Motivation is needed when there is internal resistance. Alignment does not require motivation. When alignment is present, action feels inevitable rather than effortful. This is also when external validation loses importance. You no longer check if your pace is acceptable. You no longer compare your timing with others. You no longer explain why you are not moving faster. Explanation is a symptom of misalignment. Presence is a sign of coherence. In this phase, progress becomes steady, not explosive, not dramatic, steady. And steady movement outlasts excitement every time. This is why the true New Year often arrives unnoticed. There is no ceremony, no announcement, no moment that demands recognition. Life simply begins to respond differently. Opportunities align without pursuit. Boundaries hold without effort. Decisions settle without internal debate. This is not coincidence. It is coherence translating into form. The calendar remains unchanged. Days continue to pass as they always have. But internally, a threshold has been crossed. And once crossed, return is not possible. Not because you forced yourself forward, but because the previous cycle no longer has energetic support. This is the quiet moment most humans overlook. Yet it is the moment when everything actually begins. The true New Year does not begin when something starts. It begins when alignment is stabilized. At this point in the cycle, there is nothing left to force, nothing to declare, nothing to prove. The field is already reorganized. When alignment stabilizes, movement becomes inevitable, not urgent, not dramatic, inevitable. This is the moment when many humans hesitate. They feel the shift, but they delay acknowledgement. They wait for permission. They look for confirmation. They search for external signs that it is allowed to move forward. But permission never comes from outside. Alignment only locks in when it is recognized consciously. And recognition requires action, not physical action, symbolic action that anchors awareness. So now, the closing act of this cycle is required. Write the following sentence in the comments, exactly as it is written. I recognize that my true New Year has begun. This act seals the transition. When you write this sentence, your nervous system registers completion. Your emotional field releases the need to revisit the old cycle. Your energy stops scanning backward. This recognition stabilizes direction. Without recognition, transitions remain partial. With recognition, the field commits. This does not create change, confirms it. Confirmed change does not collapse. This sentence marks the point of no return. Not because you promise anything, but because you acknowledge what is already true. From this moment on, movement no longer comes from pressure, comes from coherence. You will notice this in simple ways. Decisions feel lighter. Boundaries hold naturally. Energy responds when needed and rests when required. This is not motivation. It is orientation. The calendar may still say January. Dates may continue to pass. But internally, the cycle has turned. And when a cycle turns properly, there is no need to announce it again. It expresses itself through presence. We, the Pleiadians, do not measure your evolution by dates. We measure it by coherence. And when coherence is restored, the true New Year is already underway.